He joins us each and every Wednesday at 3 o'clock on the Sports Bash. Jason Fitz joins us now live in the virtual flesh here on 97.3 ESPN. Jason, how you doing today?
Man, I'm doing great. This is awesome. Like, this is a fancy setup. I feel all swanky that we get to actually see each other while we talk, too. For the radio audience, but still, for those of us online, this is kind of cool.
Yeah, it is kind of cool. It's nice to have, like, oh, I can see you, but you have to be near you. Socially distanced. Yay, we're all happy, right?
Yeah, that's the key in today's world. Everything we can do to stay, engaged but apart all at once.
So, listen, I got to start with this Dak Prescott stuff. I mean, literally, Dak Prescott kicked Rachel Nichols off the television for a few minutes to start the jump here because they were going so long with that press conference. Obviously, a big deal. Prescott, 4 years, $160 million. On one hand, it's like, hey, great, the guy got paid, Jason. But on the other hand, it's like, man, Jerry, it took you forever to pay the guy.
Yeah, this is such a weird situation. And I'm going to go back to last year, even 2 years ago, when we were starting these conversations. The smartest insiders I knew kept saying that, look, what Dallas really wanted was 5 years and Dak wanted 4. Now we saw how it turned out. Dak got what he wanted. But I think what was misconstrued was any level of, hey, Dallas really isn't all that into Dak. No, they wanted him for longer. The most significant part of this deal is no franchise tag, which means Dallas now has 4 years to get it figured out with Dak and to make sure that they can continue to redo this. This is a real trend-setting deal for the future of all franchises at the quarterback position, because if you start bending on the ability to franchise tag your quarterback, now you really do have to worry about not just winning games, but creating a culture where you're making your star quarterback happy. Because if you have a Russ situation in Dallas, he's just going to walk out and there's nothing the Cowboys can do about it. That's significant.
When you think about it also, people are looking at the numbers so much, but I'm more interested about what happens next because we know Ezekiel Elliott, he could maybe be cut in the next couple of years, right? What does Dallas do on defense? That defense was an abomination last year. People are saying, oh, Dallas is the favorite in the division, but I'm like, great, but Dak had to carry that team last year. So is Dallas going to be able to do much else to improve this team after handing him all the money?
I think Dallas gets a little lucky this year because there's going to be value at free agency. You've got a couple of factors here. You've got the fact that the salary cap is lower than anybody would have anticipated. We've known it for a little while, but when they structured their deals, nobody knew this. So that's why we're seeing so many veterans that are being let go right now. So that's going to play into value for everybody. So I could see, but the players are not stupid. They might sign a 1 or 2 year deal that gives them a value. So the Cowboys can get away with this for a year because it gives them a little bit more wiggle room. Down the road, going to be a lot tougher. This is what happens. Eventually, you got to find your quarterback. But when you find your quarterback, you better make sure your drafting department is doing everything possible to surround with talent. That's where the Cowboys are going to have to hit home runs every single year now. $40 million a year is the going rate for Dak. Fine, but that means you better be getting cheap labor everywhere else.
Jason Fitz joining us here on the Boardwalk kind of hotline here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig filling in for Mike Gill on a Wednesday. Jason, let's stay in the NFC East. The Mortensen report came out, started over the weekend when he was on television, and then he continued on Twitter. And we know if Chris Mortensen is tweeting something, he is 100% serious. Morton is not some habitual tweeter, right? So if he's putting out all this stuff on Twitter about Jeffrey Lurie wants Jalen Hurts, he wants him to be the star, they are going to build around this guy. I mean, that's as money to the bank as you can go. I thought it was very interesting that, listen, the owner is the one who's saying this, and it's not like the GM or the head coach. No, the owner is putting his fist down and saying, listen, we're going to build around this guy. We're going to put him in a position to be successful.
Well, and that is a huge statement. It also raises, a real question with what to do at the top of the draft, because I think, you could realistically look at Philly and say, hey, and I've said, should they be out of the quarterback conversation? No, I don't think they should be. I mean, depending on who falls to him, if you have a shot at Justin Fields and you fall in love with Justin Fields, you have an obligation to take a look at him. But when your owner's coming out and making this bold statement, well, now let's see what building means, because that means that suddenly, you can lie to try with the draft to try and get sort of hype built up to give you more trade equity. That makes sense if you're lying about a pro quarterback situation. Everybody thinks you got to move up. I don't think people are going to be trading away the future of their draft to get Jamar Chase, as good as Jamar Chase looks like he's going to be. So for an owner to come out and make such a bold statement that actually in many ways I think decreases their open value on the trade market for that pick, it changes what trades around them. Now you're serious. So now what he's telling everybody in the city, everybody in the halls, everybody in the organization is, hey, go cook with Jalen Hurts. And I think this is an important concept here. Like, we become so obsessed with big name players and we become so obsessed with coaches. It's not about this. This is about, can this coaching staff make the most of the ingredients they have in the chop basket, and that is Jalen Hurts. So now it's going to be up to them to find the right pieces in the draft to complement their quarterback. And if they don't do that, then heads will start to roll. That's the only alternative when your owner is so obvious about what their draft strategy is going to be.
And it's interesting also, Jason, because you look at the Eagles' history. They gave Michael Vick a chance. First guy after he came out of prison, right? They gave Kevin Kolb a chance to start. Nick Foles, Sam Bradford, Carson Wentz, Nick Foles. You give everybody else a chance. Why not give Hurts a chance as well? I mean, think about it. Like this guy, you draft him in the second round. Howie Roseman said, we couldn't pass on this guy. So you know what? Let's see what happens. That's kind of my position on it. Let's see what happens. Give him the reins, give him 16 games, and let's find out who this guy really is.
Well, and anybody that has spent all of 10 seconds around Jalen Hurts figures out why everybody loves him. I mean, the kid's just got that thing that you want to be around more. He's got that vibrant energy. People love playing for him. I covered him a lot when I was watching Alabama go through what they went through. And, Jalen Hurts is the type of kid that you root for. And right now, I have a hard time seeing how much difference we'll see between Philadelphia and Miami next year. Like everybody wants to give benefit of the doubt to Tua and coming back and being healthy for Miami. And that's the reason that they're going to be a playoff contender. Well, if you're going to apply benefit of the doubt in the offseason, you have to apply it, in my mind, levelly to every team. So that means Jalen Hurts. If we think that this Philly coaching staff can get the most out of Jalen Hurts, what's that look like? You didn't take him in the second round if you think the best of Jalen Hurts isn't good enough to win you football games. So absolutely, they already went too far in. Like if you're a poker player, you already put too much in the pot. You're pot invested at this point with Jalen Hurts. Why not at least see how the cards play out from here?
Now, speaking of also how the cards play out, I just saw Field Yates tweet earlier. There is a ton of receivers who are going to be available in free agency. Kenny Galladay, Juju Smith-Schuster, Antonio Brown. Does he try to go somewhere else and maybe get a little extra money? You know what I mean? Listen, there's a lot of guys out there. How could that impact the draft as well? Because the Eagles, other teams, people are always saying Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, but is there maybe a team or two that's in the drafts that'd be like, do I want Devonta Smith or do I want Kenny Galladay? Like there might be a team that goes out there and says that, Jason.
I think the future of the wide receiver position, I'm the only person that thinks this, but I think the future of the wide receiver position is about to be met by the same future that we see for the running back position. Because for the last 3 years covering the draft and working it for ESPN, every year we've been talking about this is an unreal draft class. Well, guess what? We're seeing it again. And it's not just an unreal draft class at the top. You can get contributors in the third and fourth round that can come in and absolutely be spectacular players. I mean, you got to look at the way that offenses evolved in the NFL, the way they've changed things to make young quarterbacks more successful. That also benefits wide receivers. So right now there is a real conversation. As good as Jamar Chase looks like he's going to be, let's remember a year ago how good we all thought Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, Henry Ruggs were all going to be. They were your top three wide receivers off the board. And while all three of them still have the potential to be great, we saw other receivers drafted come out and have better rookie years. So right now, if I'm a team that needs wide receiver, I'm looking across the board and saying there's going to be value in free agency. There's value in the second and third rounds. Man, I don't know that I'm jumping on a receiver in the top 10 of the draft, no matter how good I think they're going to be.
And I personally love Jonathan Adams from Arkansas State. Maybe like you get him in the fifth round. I mean, that guy's a physical freak. I mean, freakazoid.
Beast of a player, absolutely.
Yeah, so, I mean, you can get guys later in the draft. You're 100% right. Jason Fitz joining us here on the Boardwalk Kind of Hotline on 97.3 ESPN. Now, I'm going to drag you in to a little controversy here, okay? It has been a huge debated topic in the last couple of weeks here about Kyle Pitts. We have a handful of people who are like, you can't draft another tight end. We already have tight ends. Yeah, another group of people who are like, you can't pass on this guy. Dylan Jeremiah thinks that this guy could be a future Hall of Famer. That's how he's grading him for his draft. And I heard that we have one NFL insider who told us here on 97.3 ESPN, he told us that a NFL scout said he is not a tight end. He is an offensive weapon. So Jason Fitz, you're a guy who covers college football. Where do you stand on Kyle Pitts as an NFL prospect, and do you like him potentially in an Eagles uniform?
Yes, and I would take Pitts over any of the wide receivers that are available. And a couple of things here. I'm a Biletnikoff Award voter this first year, but in the college football landscape, the best wide receiver of the year is the Biletnikoff Award, and I gave Kyle Pitts the vote there too. So, I gave him one of my votes because as much as he lines up as tight end, go back and watch that team. He lines up everywhere. And I know that Philly has tight ends. And I've looked at the same thing. I've had this discussion with multiple fans that looks there and say, even as a Raiders fan, we have Darren Waller. Like, why do we need another tight end? Why? Because at some point, you can make yourself virtually uncoverable. And that's what Kyle Pitts is. Kyle Pitts is the sort of guy that when they rolled coverage and they said, hey, we are going to stop Kyle Pitts, they still couldn't do it. And if you can do that, if you can put yourself in a situation where two tight ends on the field, doesn't mean that you're going to run the ball. It also means that they've got to keep the right people on the field to defend those tight ends in passing situations. Now you've just opened up running lanes also. If I was a GM that had a good tight end room, I would still take Kyle Pitts all day, every day, because versatility in formation is everything. If you can disguise what you're running and you get to the line of scrimmage, defense doesn't know what's coming, you are better for it. Kyle Pitts lets you do that because no matter where you put him, he can motion out. He can do whatever you ask him to do. He is a absolute star and is going to be, I think, a day one impact player. So I'd take him above any of the wide receivers available.
All right, Jason, before I let you go, Spain and Fitz, usually Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock on 97.3 ESPN, but tonight, the ACC tournament, so you get at least a little bit of a breather tonight. I know you were hosting solo on Monday night, which was a little ironic. It was International Women's Day, but Sarah was not there. I mean, how does that work? I mean, I feel like Sarah should be like the spokesman for International Women's Day. I mean, she's done so much to promote women's everything in sports, and it's like, where was Sarah? Like, I was disappointed on Monday night. But anyway, bro, you were probably disappointed too. So, with the college basketball this week, what are you watching for? What are you looking for in this March Madness week? As we're all amped up. I mean, I was at Boardwalk Hall last night for the overtime game for the MAC. For goodness sake, I mean, I'm in, man. I'm in on the basketball this week.
Look, it's going to be. I think this March Madness tournament is going to be spectacular. And by the way, Sarah, International Women's Day, the best way to acknowledge her is to let her have the day off and not deal with me. I think that's in and of itself me saying thank you. But when it comes to the college basketball side, I think the Big Ten is the hardest conference right now to figure out. We've seen greatness from Michigan, but we also have seen, dog food from Michigan over the last couple of weeks. And conversely, Michigan State's been easily on that same roller coaster. Is Illinois really in the same category as Gonzaga or Baylor? I don't think so. But how that Big Ten tournament plays out over the course is going to be really interesting. And then, watching everybody just absolutely fawn over some way to magically get Duke into the tournament when they're not getting there is going to be, I think, the most, if you're a troll at all in the college basketball landscape, just realizing that Coach K is on the bubble and it is not going to work out for him brings me so much joy. This is one of those years, like, realistically, Gonzaga, Baylor are reminding us that in a COVID year, if you have a team that's been together, that's played together, that has some symmetry together, they know each other, that's an advantage. I don't know that this tournament is going to give us as many crazy, wild upsets because right now it's the teams that have that togetherness, cohesiveness, continuity that are finding ways to win. So I think what we're going to see is actually some really solid conference tournament basketball that leads into a March Madness that may not be as wild, but is actually going to give us better games for it. So if you're a college basketball head, this is going to be a spectacular March and going to be special because we will get finally to pay attention to teams not named Duke and Kentucky in the process.
And you can still hear Duke tonight here on 97.3 ESPN. Duke playing Louisville. Coverage begins at 6 o'clock tonight right here on the radio.
They're playing for their lives. Like, you want to check that game out? They are playing for their tournament lives at this point. So let's see what they can do.
Survive and Advance has a new meaning for Duke tonight. That's for sure. He's Jason Fitz joining us here every Wednesday on the Sports Bash. And as all guests, he appears in the Boardwalk kind of hotline, Spain and Fitz, Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock on 97.3 ESPN. Jason, it's good to see you in the virtual flesh. We'll catch you next week.
Man, appreciate you having it. Hold down the fort over there. Stop letting Gil take all these weeks off. He's going full Sarah Spain on me here. Make him work.
Maybe he's hanging out with Sarah. Who knows?
Yeah, probably. Thanks, brother.
Let's catch you later. He's Jason Fitz, joins the Sports Bash every week at 3 o'clock on 97.3 ESPN.